I'm going to talk about video on a budget, and it's a variety of budgets from very low to very high. I wanted to give you some examples of the spectrum of what you can do, depending on what your commitment is, time-wise and money-wise. So I think you already heard from Jessica, and she illustrated the point really well. This is it. Your numbers of everything are going to go up dramatically if you start using video. And even if your video isn't the greatest video in the world, you will see that it makes a huge difference, and I'll give you some examples of that. Obviously, social media is critical. We've all seen the viral videos. Did anyone see the panda bear in the Washington Zoo circulating on Friday or Saturday? Like half of America saw that video. It's crazy. I showed it to my daughter like as soon as she woke up, and she's like, "I already saw that, Mom." It's like kind of crazy. Embedded in emails, we do reminder emails for all of our concerts and obviously marketing emails, and we put video in all of those emails, and it makes a difference for the open rate and the engagement level. Obviously, website, newsletters, events. I think you are all aware that one of the big things is at these fundraising events, having these videos that tell the story of why are you paying all this money to come to this event, or why do you want to give more money. But you have to be strategic. You can't just do anything. You don't have unlimited resources. No matter how big you are, you will not have unlimited resources. I can guarantee that. So think about, what is the return on investment? Know what you're doing. Are you doing it because it's branding? Are you doing it as a viral initiative? Are you doing it because it's going to generate sales, donations? Try to understand what your goal is, because then you can measure if you succeeded with your goal. Sometimes it's just sheer number of people watching it, but other times it's for a campaign of some kind. You need to think about what the impact is on brand. Okay, so yeah, it's really cute and funny to have all these quirky videos, but sometimes it doesn't reflect poorly. Sometimes it reflects poorly on your organization, depending on what it is. So you have to think about that. And again, this all leads to how much should you spend and how much time should you put into it. And no matter how well you plan, there will be a lot of surprises. So things will not go well, or things will go far better than you expected, or it'll be you put endless amounts of hours into something and almost no one watched it. I have an example of that for you today. So anyway, but let's start with the cheapest and the easiest. So seize the moment. I was on tour with our orchestra. I went to the rehearsals. I took some video on my phone, on my camera. I posted it an hour later. I just used the easy edit tools, nothing fancy, nothing special. People's expectations weren't that it be fabulous, and the reason is because they understood it was real time, at a rehearsal, and so how could you create something that fabulous? And so I took a little clip, 30 seconds of Yo-Yo Ma at the BSO rehearsal in Paris, and 73,000 people watched it in 24 hours. Of course, Yo-Yo Ma tends to be the exception to every classical music rule because he's extremely popular. I didn't ask his permission, and I didn't even tell his people that I posted it. So this was not with his reposting. This was straight from our site. Had I done that, there was a good chance that they were going to delay and I wasn't going to be able to put it up real time. I don't recommend that kind of calculated risk. That definitely could have come back to haunt me, but I did knowingly do this, and I hope they'll never find out. We also did an Electra. We had a great singer who you're going to see a clip of in a second, singing Electra at Symphony Hall, and it got rave reviews. She also did in New York at Carnegie. And so we put that up, and that is an unusual, like just regular concert clip that got 40,000 views really quickly. And if you want to see them and you just go to the BSO Facebook page, you can see samples of some of these videos that I'm not showing today. So then moving on to, okay, you want to budget a little money, get an intern, get a small crew. We frequently work with a 2-camera crew that charges about $500 an hour, so it's fairly reasonable if you can kind of find people like that to work with. Interns are fantastic if you can find those who are studying to do this, and then it really matters to them and they're going to work on it. Editing is always the big cost, I think, because of course you can really do a light edit, but if you're going to spend the energy to have some professional help, you probably want to make sure it's edited well. And so that actually ends up being the most expensive thing. You can get the editing tools in your office and you can train someone, but it's a long process and it's very time consuming. So I'm just going to show you an example of something that was done with a one-man crew at Tanglewood, and it was a series of interviews. This is Christina Gurka. She was the Electra I mentioned. You can see this page. We set up a page for a stream of the Mahler 8th Symphony that we did as an on-demand from Tanglewood. Tanglewood has robotic cameras, so we didn't have to hire a special camera crew. We did have to have someone kind of clean up the editing, because the cameras for a live concert showing on the screens, on the lawn is one thing, but when you're actually putting it up, you do need to make sure that there are no screw-ups in there, because everyone will point that out to you. And so we did a series of videos here of interviews, music director, chorus director, soloist, orchestra members, and this was all to support the actual Mahler 8, which was also live streamed to a place in Boston. So it was a really complicated project. So I'm just going to show you, this is just production qualities of a one-person camera crew with lights with decent sound. So this was about $500.
My name is Christine Gurke. I'm one of the soprano soloists here for the Mahler 8th. I grew up as a clarinet player. I was very interested in being a high school band teacher because my teacher was remarkable, and he taught so many children, and it wasn't just necessarily the people who wanted to be musicians, but I saw how important music could be to all young people. So I intended to be a clarinet player / band teacher, and when I got to college, they put me into a room and handed me some music to see if I could read music, and I had to sing it, and they liked my singing voice better than my clarinet playing, which was a huge blow to me. But I decided to start studying voice, and I found that it turns out I'm an opera singer, and I do a lot of classical concerts as well with orchestra. So I have found myself doing this for the last 20 years. And it has been an amazing ride, and it is incredible joy. The first time that I work with Maestro, we actually met in London.
There's another thing that I think is more fun, which again just involved a one-man crew, and this was during a Boston Pops concert. So we did this new arrangement all about the bass, and we thought that was pretty funny considering it was sort of on the top of the charts and all that.
1, 2, 3, 2.
One of the reasons we wanted to do that was not just because the song was popular at the time, but also because the orchestra was having a lot of fun with it, and we thought that would be a great thing to show to the public. And so it was really popular. It had some sort of relevance at that moment in time. And then we also wanted to show it because it was really cheap and easy to do. We just threw a cameraman up in the balcony, but you can see the difference between the quality versus having, like, if we had 3 cameras and you could have shown every person coming down the aisle. I don't know that it really made a difference. A lot of people watched it, everyone liked it, so, you know, I think it was probably good enough. But anyway, if you want to try to, like, bring this in and do it in your organization, and say you have a donor that would support some of this, a lot of times people are willing to do capital gifts for equipment like this. And we found a lot of donors are really interested in the idea that they could be so cool as to give you the opportunity to do this kind of stuff. So anyway, you know, you can get a camera for $5,000 to $8,000, editing software $1,000 to $3,000, lights, etc. Sound mics. Lights and sound and mics are probably the most important things. I think probably having a camera that wasn't as good would be not as important as making sure you had good lighting and all of that. And the thing is if you want to do this in-house, you really just need to prepare yourself to stop whatever you're doing, or have anyone who's working with you stop whatever you're doing and seize the moment. So if there's some funny thing happening in your organization, in a rehearsal or whatever, backstage, you need to just be there, because that's when you're going to get all the good stuff. And if you're just waiting to schedule it, it's not going to happen as easily, which is not to say that you can't schedule some things, but the spontaneous stuff is much more exciting. And of course, the thing is if you spend all this energy, time, and money to create this stuff, make sure you use it as much as possible, max it out in every way that you can. So using all the social media and email, your website, etc., get everyone to send it out on your behalf, and so on and so forth. So fully produced, does not happen to everyone, that some project comes along where someone funds it, and then you really get to plan it and do it in the most amazing way. And I'm just going to give you a little background on what I'm going to show you. We had a donor, and so he wanted us to create some sort of like reality type show at Tanglewood. And so he funded the project. So this is the second season of a show called New Tanglewood Tales. The first season featured the musicians of the Tanglewood Music Center, which is a professional academy. And the second season is featuring the musicians of the Boston Symphony Orchestra.
So when I was growing up on a farm in Alberta, I knew about Tanglewood.
So last year we had this on our website, and we distributed it, and a fair number of people watched it, like in the millions. And then it was on American Public Television. They liked it and they picked it up.
Somebody over there warming up on trumpet. It's a definite musical utopian environment out here.
This is actually my first Tanglewood season in the role of assistant conductor.
It is a pleasure to be part of it. You know, I hopefully never take that for granted, that I get to play with so many talented people. What a thrill.
It's just a fun job. It's fun to be around the people, especially with our new conductor. That's really fun.
What makes the Boston Symphony absolutely unique in the world of orchestras is Tanglewood.
Tanglewood is the home of the Boston Symphony for the summer. The orchestra picks up, and everybody and all their instruments and all their dress clothes. We move out to the Berkshires, and we live out there for about 8 weeks over the summer.
And everybody goes, too. It's the whole staff of the orchestra as well.
As things taper down at Symphony Hall with pops, we will start bringing some instruments out here, usually percussion instruments.
When you think about moving an orchestra, you're talking about tons of equipment. You know, it's not like you can put a timpani in your back seat.
We know we're coming to Tanglewood every year, and we know we're going back. So everybody has to pack up their office and their house.
I'm a runner, and one of the cool things about the orchestra runners is that we do a relay that starts at Boston Symphony Hall and runs all afternoon through the night, and then ends up a full day later at the main gate in Tanglewood.
Okay, well, this goes on actually for 26 minutes, so I'm not going to subject you to that, though it's a really fun thing. This is the introductory episode of Tanglewood, so we had to give people some context and all of that. But you go and it goes into rehearsals and solo performances and working with kids and the whole thing. So you can see it's not really at all like Mozart in the Jungle. It's much more like a cross between a reality show and a documentary, but people really like it a lot. And I think that, again, this is probably beyond what most organizations could do, but on the other hand, I have seen a lot of organizations do sort of the low-tech version of this and just do the whole behind the scenes and a day in the life, and I think that that can be really effective. And also, I would say that, you know, there are a million different uses of video. I started telling you briefly about this trailer thing that we did. So think of a movie trailer and you do like the highlights and the excitement and the great clips of a movie. Well, we did the same for a series of performances, but sort of off the beaten track, you know, talking about the Mozart effect or a chef preparing a picnic and all that kind of stuff. So it was really interesting because it actually generated a lot of sales, and we were able to track it because we would embed the video in sales emails and also as part of our digital campaign. And so I was surprised. I did not think that those trailers would generate any sales. I was just doing it because this guy really was into that project, and I figured it couldn't do any harm. So I think that's an interesting thing, that there are things that you can do that actually will generate sales, and how do you figure out what that is? And this is all by accident that we found out. So if anyone wants to see some of those clips and how much we generated, I can certainly follow up and send those to you. Just decide that you're going to do some of this. You're going to experiment. You can start slowly, pick a few things. You don't have to go crazy, but you will see what happens. And also engagement of your community, your board, and all of that, I think, is really important. We just did a Casual Friday series at Symphony Hall. It was a brand new series for us, and we created 11 little tiny videos, 2 minutes each, telling the story of the program, really short bios, very short interviews, et cetera, and our board members were so excited about that they want to fundraise for us to try to be able to offer that for every single performance, not just for this series where people had iPads, which is a positive, because isn't that the best? If you can give people this really quick highlights that they can talk about the next day, they feel like they're part of it, instead of, I've got to read these program notes, it's daunting, I'll read them later, then they throw it in a pile, they don't do it half the time. So anyway, just a few thoughts and things to do, but I mean, that is actually really fun, I think, to work on this if you can actually make the time to do it. So thanks so much, and I will close up my things so Rich can do this.